Hello, hello. It's Lorelei with Radiate Life with Lorelei, and I'm here. I'm impromptu again. You can see I'm in my basement, and I'm still trying to get everything set up. And this is a video about getting ready to get ready because it's happening. I'll come back and edit this video, but I'm gonna leave it up because it's just things have come up that I want to share with you. I mean, so many times we sit down and we do presentations and we say, this is how you handle conflict, or it's a new year and you try to commit to a new habit, or you commit to being more vulnerable in your relationship, and you're met with resistance. You're met with other people that like didn't get the memo, or decided that they were going to do something else, and that they're not in alignment with that in any way, shape, or form with what you're wanting, right? So it's I know this happened so many times, especially in my early days of metaphysics and metaphysical studies. And it was like, okay, today's a new day, it's a new year. It's like, okay, and then you go and you try to do something, and it's like you have a ball and chain, or that you're walking in quicksand. The more that you put out there, take steps, your intention, you're purposeful. It's like you're walking around with a beautiful vase of flowers, and you walk, and you're like, oh, and you sink down, and you try to get yourself out. And the right, that quicksand is the more you resist and push back, the more it uses your energy against you. Right. That's another thing that comes to mind is Asian Oriental warfare with energy. If you've ever taken karate or tai chi, the masters say that you take your opponent's energy and you push it back to them. So whatever energy they're giving, it's like you're harnessing that and pushing that back, and you're conserving your energy. Maybe it's just playful. Maybe it's just that someone doesn't see your point of view. Maybe it's someone's ego identity. There's three layers often that we talk about with ego, but for right now, we're going to say ego and ego identity. And someone's like, no, I set this goal. I'm going to achieve it. It doesn't matter if you want me to do it differently, or if you're wanting me to help you, whatever that might be. So helping somebody, I'll just say this is alignment is I'm aligned with me. This is what my goals are, my priorities. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. And these are the things that I'm working on. Of all the things that I could be working on, this is what I'm working on. And so working with someone else in a collaborative effort, it's best if that person is self-nourishing and self-fortifying, and knows their strengths and knows their weaknesses. And they know, okay, this is what I'm committed to doing. This is what I'm doing. So when two individuals come together who are strong in themselves, self-reflective, self-referring, willing to see the blind spot, right? Willing to check their blind spot and say, what is it that I am not seeing that's really important for me to see? Les Brown said, driving with your emergency brake on. My cat's around here too. The more I step forward, the more that brake is on. So it takes more energy. So if I'm resisting doing something, and yet I'm pushing myself to do it, either for myself or because I have to meet a goal outside myself or someone else or for work, then that puts extra pressure on myself. And we call that often stress. Okay. So I want to say that it is stressful when we're out there doing new things. And unfortunately, we do live in a world where, especially online, I already had to stop blocking people from commenting, because sometimes people see a small channel and a small person, small in their eyes, and they can make a big splash, or they feel like the importance is on them. If you ever really have something that you want to say to somebody, and that you feel like that isn't misplaced, that maybe it is something, then say it with respect. You could be truthful. You can say what it is. Be clear about what it is your perspective is. Be clear about why you think the way that you think, to be able to give that other person an honest and an accurate description of where you're coming from. Because as I said in the very beginning, I'm responsible for me and my learning and my choices, and I'm going to step into an agreement that if you're my partner, you're my collaborator, whether we're working on some kind of project together, an earth meditation, these are some of the things that I'm working on, an earth meditation, or, helping individuals who are wanting to learn more about healing through things like massage and food, and learning about what the life force energy is. What does that even mean, right? So it gives them lots and lots of opportunities. So as I'm partnering with other people that have other experiences, I'm going to step into the kind of place where we're going to be responsible for our own things. And if there is something that comes up that feels like conflict, that feels like I have to give myself up in order to work with this person, then we create a sacred space where we get to talk about that, because that other person understands that what I'm saying is reflective of me and my perspective. And I can change my perspective. I can fortify my perspective. And that has nothing to do with their value and their perspective. And the same thing, if they're feeling a certain way, if they're feeling like, I feel like you're getting more of a say in this than I am, this feels in out of equity, right? It's inequitable. And so, I want to be in the kinds of collaborative, fortified relationships where there's equal value. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It doesn't matter how new you are to your practice or your perspective, or your entrepreneurship. Think about this. Like, I think about this today. I was writing about this because I am making the commitment this year to publish, could be small workbooks. But before I step up and offer things this year, I'm going to have a workbook and a book. And it may not be something that's a part of the e-online universe, but it would be something that, as a client of mine or a potential client, or someone who just wants, kind of here's what I say and was like, I would like to explore this with Lorelei. I would like to explore this with the way she thinks. So what she says, some of it is I connect with, some of it I don't. More than likely, there's like one thing that you'll connect with, right? And so then you have the opportunity to utilize that workbook, have sessions if you want. But the bottom line is I'm going to take you from beginning to end, because often what I've seen is that as I've put things out there, I personally put things out there. Now, I know there's a lot of detail or there's a lot of depth, and it's hard to get that detail or that depth, but just by having like a little taste of something, right? Having a taste of stale bread when you really could be having homemade fresh bread. But I'm really the kind of person, like, I want you to make your own bread. I want to give you the basic formula, and then I want to encourage you to experiment, to try what doesn't work and what does work for you. That's what 2025 is about. But you have to step up to that plate, and you have to be willing to go all in. So that leads me to my next thing, which is I'm going to do, I have my rain stick. So I'm just kind of clearing this area for us. And I'll do a little bit of chanting. And honestly, if I'll look and try to do it about maybe a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I'll mark it from my heart, so it may or may not be your jam. But I'm going to do it more and more. I haven't done this. It's one of the unique things that I've studied a really long time. And I've had to really be brave, had to really open my heart. I had to really allow myself to put myself out there. And unfortunately, when I sometimes put myself out there because of other people's insecurities and my own insecurity, people would be like, who told you could sing? Have you ever been in a place where you want to sing and express, and someone's thinking or saying like, hey, listen to that person, they're off key, and they're so proud of it. How can they be so proud of it when they sound horrible? And it's like, that's not the way to be. That's completely not supportive, and we know that. And then not to be around people who are saying that, because you see somebody, I've seen it over and over. And me and my friends were like, I love how that person expresses. That person gives me more courage to express myself and not be concerned if it's bothering other people, right? Because usually, if it's bothering someone, you see someone being open and vulnerable, and then you make a judgment. Oh, that's not good enough. Oh, they shouldn't be expressing their voice because it's not as pretty as someone else's. I wouldn't pay to hear that person sing. Yeah, but you would see a little child, and a little child is singing, little kindergartners singing. You see toddlers dancing and taking their first steps. And all of a sudden, we change our perspective. We see their innocence, we see their beauty. So here we are, big adult bodies in our own innocence, in our own beauty, right? And I'm here today because I want to say that um, don't let anyone try to dim your light. Don't let someone stand it up in front of you. And, get support. Get support. I'm here. I'm supportive. There are so many ways that we can do it. It's important that we not stifle our emotions based upon what other people express to us. No one else gets a vote. No one else gets a say. No one, I just had this conversation with a young adult the other day, is like, no one has, unless we give them permission to dim our light or to put ourselves down. I had a manager and she told me, Lori, you are Lorelei, well, Lori, that you are not a people person. And that crushed me for a moment. She's like, you should write books. And I did write, which, she knew that, but I am a people person. I am a lover of life, and had been very innocent. I'll just say that I had someone else in my life who has passed on, and I was crushed when she passed on because she was somebody who stood up and expressed herself, at least when I knew her. And people just radiate that love and that openness and that unconditional expression, right? And you just want to be in that. And you just want to imagine that you're on the dance floor and you want to participate and your heart is open. And even though people might consider you an introvert, this is your people. This is your safe place. This is where you get to be. This is the one time you get to let yourself out and feel vulnerable and not feel hurt and show that to other people. And it's so amazing and so beautiful. And then someone walks into the room and turns the light on and says, what the heck are you guys doing? You don't have permission to dance in here. This is a class. A class doesn't entail music. You're not serious about this, because if you were serious about this, you'd be having tables and sitting in straight back chairs, and you'd have an overhead. Dating myself. This doesn't look like serious learning. This looks like something superficial. This looks like something else, and that person comes in and hopefully we go, your party's down the road. This is our party. Dim the lights. Would you like some food and some juice? And we'll send someone down there to take you where you need to go to make sure you get to your place, right? So we're giving ourselves permission to be who we are. We're giving ourselves permission to understand it's not everybody's point of view. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but we're not going to let that ruin that for us. And, it's a lesson for us too, not to step into someone else's situation or someone else's, I'll say, tribalism. That's important to think of. The limits of tribalism versus coming to what I call the powwow, because a powwow is a place of love and beauty, and everybody gets to come in from all different walks of life, all different teachers, all different native traditions of the earth, and they come and join and celebrate. They celebrate diversity, they celebrate unity, they celebrate what Mother Earth and love and coming together. And they think about the Nede people, the people of the earth, and how are they going to solve things in their own way? How are they going to make sure that their problem solving doesn't create other problems? Okay. So it's this beautiful, wonderful place. And unfortunately, and it is the way it is, I was even going to come on today. This is like so ironic. Unfortunately, I was going to say I have to start blocking people on my, here, because they're trolls, they're bullies. They're people who come in and say, hey, you can't do that. Oh, that's not right. Well, who are they to tell me? They're not my teacher. They're not my mentor. I didn't ask them to come watch my video. I didn't go onto their page or into their circle, into their life and start criticizing them. I thought this was highly ironic because one of the main mentors, uh, I really have been feeling her in my heart. And she does say you should not go out and criticize other people. That self sovereignty means that you stand on your own and that what you do stands of its own merit and that we don't need to defend ourselves. And, part of this whole practice is, like I said in the beginning, is making sure that we're accountable for what we're bringing in here, making sure that we're learning our lessons. And then that we do check that blind spot. If we don't check the blind spot, we know what happens. Things fall apart. We don't check the details. We're not taking care of our car. We go on a long trip. Our car breaks down and we're like, yeah, if I would have checked these things, I would have been more tuned to it. We were actually, this just came up because there's one, it's like we have 3 cars and we have to kind of stagger when they all get brakes and when they all get tune-ups and when they all get new tires so that they're not all getting those things at the same time, and they have different mileage, and we do our maintenance. If we don't do our maintenance and we're going to go on a long trip, well, we're rolling the dice. And if we get stuck, we get stuck. But if we take the time to look and see, what did I do? How did I prepare? So, that's what I'm saying. I'm responsible for that. So if I come in and I'm offering something and you feel like you have something to say to me, then I think you need to sit down and write that note down, and you need to turn it around and read it to yourself. Like, if someone was giving me this information, would this be valid? Is this something I need to look at, or is this something I truly need to do? Because if I'm telling somebody, no matter what it is, really, that they should stop doing something when they've already clearly established that they are going to do something, the only thing we're doing is putting ourselves in harm's way, okay, by bullying someone back, by pushing against somebody. And in a situation where nobody asked to be, right? So what my mentor says is that instead of constantly looking over your shoulder, that what you need to do is, when there is like a sense of conflict or there's a disagreement, to fully, in that moment, to the best of your ability, express it, but expressing it with respect for yourself, respect for the other person, whether you think they deserve it or not. We're not going back and saying eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, to get biblical honest. There is boundaries. So it's love with boundaries is what I would say. And we could talk more about this another time. But when I say to stand up, we have to have, as adults, speaking to adults, no hierarchy. And if somebody isn't willing, my husband and I just had to talk about this today. And when we talked about his boundaries, we talked about is like he is responsible for taking care of himself. If he wants that help or not have that stuff, but he's responsible. Right. I'm not there to nag him. He's an adult. It's important for him to ask. And the same thing for me. And we made a commitment and a promise to each other that we want to be strong. We want to be strong individually. He's really started to really come out. Maybe I'll end it on that. So he really started to, this morning I said, we both have been kind of detoxing, spiritual detoxing. We're in a new dimension. There's new energy that's coming in. And so, of course, there's these things that are coming in, and there's things in our environment or things from the outside that we're just like noticing, nothing horrible. But it's like when you get ready to get to the next level, when you get ready to get to your next level of health, then the things that you didn't take care of, or the things that are going to need to be cleared out for yourself. And if you're an empath, for your loved ones, for your ancestors, for the earth, that pipeline's going to come through and it's going to go out. So it's important that we take care of ourselves. So I just reestablishing with my husband, like, he doesn't and hasn't in our 24 years of being together, almost 25, really dug into claiming some things for himself. He has put aside his things and money for his things because the resources were more divided into what we did with the kids. And of course, he hasn't been like forsaking himself, and he hasn't been like sacrificing himself and that kind of thing, but he hadn't really opened up something. And once he did, he put a lot of time and energy and attention into it. And that's his telescope, and that's his pictures. And our commitment in 2025 to lean in and see if we can purchase land for our sustainable living, land for our dark skies. And yesterday, some more things came together, and it's very exciting because we're getting close. We're getting to the point where, like, okay, if we really wanted this piece of land or this property, how much money do we have? Are we ready for it? And yes or no. It's like you're getting ready to get ready. So that's a great one where he and I are like, take care of our health, taking care of our finances. Where are we with our businesses? What are our resources coming in? How are we closing down the house that we have in order to take that energy, move it into at least one of our next spots? Because we're going to have at least 2 places for sustainable living. And bless his heart, he said to me, we're looking at the desert. He goes, could you be happy in the desert? And I said, yeah. There are some things that we've talked about, earth ships and building gardens, terracing things. I'm studying Mexico and how they build in the desert and how you create living habitats in that kind of environment that's still sustainable. Okay, so I love the fact that he's saying, this is really me. Is that going to be big enough for you? And I said, yes, like we're doing this. And I love you for asking. And we're also going to do, we're going to be someplace else by water. I don't know where exactly that might be, but we have to start with one place and kind of see where it goes from there. So that's what we're doing. Like, I'm doing this in my job, in my business, in my finances. I'm only starting day one. And it takes a couple of years, and he's finishing up his teaching, and he's probably going to do that for 4 more years. And he's like, I don't want to do it. In a sense, I wish I had the money to do it tomorrow, and when we do, he will. But he's like, I'm committed to 4 years, and I know what that looks like. And so we're coming together, pooling our resources and saying, what are the things around us that we need to work on and start release? What the kids, making sure that they're self-sufficient. And a lot of that looks like us putting up boundaries with love and saying, no, you need to figure this out. You're going to be an adult. And whether you choose to figure it out or not, I know that I'm not going to be that solution. And I love you and I believe in you. I believe in you so much that I am going to support your vision. But I'm also not going to jeopardize my own health, my own safety, my own business. When I can talk about that later too, about what I did, what I needed to do when my environment wasn't supportive of me, and how I flipped that around, and how I also lived in an environment where other people were like, the more needy they were, the more people gave to them. And so their whole life was based upon this usury relationship. And I didn't do that. Not because I'm going to say better, right? Like that's the talk behind my back. No, it's because I decided I have effort, and I can put my effort in complaining that I'm not getting as much as them, or I can put my effort into where I'm standing and what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter what other people have or do not have. What matters is me and my feeling and what I do. Right. So these are some of the things that we lean into. I'm going to edit this, but I just wanted to recap a little bit that we started talking about. Often when you want to start something new and you go to take a step, and you realize something, you didn't fix something in the back, you didn't take care of your car, you didn't pay a bill, maybe you put something on a credit card instead of paying for it, and now you have to work extra hard in order to pay off that debt so that you can be back in the black and out of the red. Right. So you may be like, oh, darn, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I made a better choice. Like, okay, well, what can I do? Where can I cut back? Maybe I can work an extra job. Maybe I can turn one of my hobbies into some kind of business. Maybe lots of different things that you can do. Maybe I can help someone out in the neighborhood once in a while, and that'll give some cash. Maybe I have some things to sell. Maybe I have some things for Christmas that I didn't give away, or I have some things I received, and I would like to sell those so that I would really have that money resource. Or that barter. Maybe you cook for somebody and they provide the food, and then they come over and you cook and you have a nice time together and you enjoy life, and you go out and have a nice walk, or you watch someone's children and they watch your children, or you want to go on a trip and so you watch someone's dogs. Just barter for what you need and just put it out there and be willing to put forth the effort to have that. And then don't be surprised when people come in. Don't be surprised if someone's trips you right in front of you and goes, oh, you shouldn't have stepped up. You should not have fallen on my foot, or I didn't trip you that hard. Any kind of bullies in our environment, or any kind of, gaslighting that happens in our environment. Anytime anyone is like, that wasn't my fault, that's your fault, is you just have to be like, okay, well, this is on my path. This is what I'm doing. And I'm not going to accept responsibility for that. But I am going to check in with myself and see, maybe there's some place that I haven't taken responsibility for myself. So this is kind of what led for me and my husband. We're talking about committing to how important, because we didn't have this in the probably first 15 years of marriage. We didn't realize, as two sensitive, assertive people, we never really valued how much and necessary it is to take care of ourselves. And that cutting out time for ourselves was not taking away from the family, that it was actually adding to the family. And the second part of that is, in the last 10 years of our marriage, I really had to convince each other that we have to take care of ourselves, and that we have to do the things that we need, and we have to ask for assistance, and that we can't keep borrowing from the goodness of each other, right? And that sometimes we have to have tough conversations. But if we can have tough conversations when they're small, when they're a minor disagreement, then it's so much easier to resolve. It's so much easier to have these small talks and try to come up with a solution over time instead of getting heated. I think that was one of the biggest things in our marriage, is that there's something we were talking through, and often the disagreements have to do with parenting. I mean, if it were he and I just individually, we really don't have this because we're adults, right? But when it comes to having to prioritize someone else's needs, someone else's resources with our three kids, and how we want to parent, and how we are so raised so differently, it takes a lot. And so we just would have to, like, not raise our voice. We'd have to learn how to really, take care of our emotions and write things out, and come back at time when we actually can sit down. And sometimes we do things like, this is my way of doing things. I like to light a fire. I like to write things out that we've held against ourselves or held against other people, and do a ceremony. And then I like to do incense and a water ceremony where we invigorate our goals, where we talk about our affirmations for our kids and things that we've noticed that he and I share with each other, and what are our hopes and dreams for ourselves and for our kids. And that just caused so much clarity. And even meditating, sometimes it's only 5 minutes a day. Sometimes in our life it was going out for a walk. It changes and it morphs into all kinds of different things. So I said I was going to do this, but I'm not, because I have stuff going on right now. But I'll just do this a little bit. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. So I wanted just to get back to this topic about having to block people on my channel, because I wanted to say something here too, which is, if you have something, and I said this earlier, but I'll come full circle with it. If you have something, and yes, it might be a criticism. Yes, it might be something. If you feel that you really need to share that with them, they are not obligated to respond. If you don't like pink, and they always wear pink, or they have a pink background, or they're talk very fast, and you don't like that because you think people for what give whatever reason you want, XXX, fill in the blank as to if they change this, this would be better for them. And what you're saying is, I'm one individual and I think I'm important enough to be able to say that you should do this differently. And maybe that's true, and maybe that's not. But unless somebody is asking you for that feedback, and often people do, it is criticism. And it is saying, I need to control you because whatever I have going on in me, it feels like you're the source of it. And if I can control you, then somehow I'm going to feel better. And let's say that you listen to that and they do, maybe it's a work situation and it's easier just to change it than a fight. And so you change it and they realize that what they felt inside themselves, even though they controlled you, did not get smaller, probably got bigger. But now you might have more of a, you know what, I was willing to do that because it really didn't bother me to do that. But now that I see that you're just going to come back and try to control that, I have the awareness that if somebody is trying to put undue influence on me, it's because I'm a reflection for them and they may not see it, probably don't see it. Otherwise, I would have responded differently. My friends might say to me, you know what? How do you do that? How do you come out and say that? Like one of my friends will call me up and be like, you know, I know you said that in front of all those people, and all those people were like, oh, I can't believe she thinks that. Like, how did you do that? I'm like, I didn't think about what they were going to think. I felt it in the moment, and I just shared. But I wasn't always like that, you know. But I'm like that because I know there's more people that are around me, right? So that's one kind of thing where people might come say something. People don't normally come up to me and criticize me because they have respect for themselves and they have to leave if they want to leave and stay if they want to stay. And I don't normally have people that openly criticize. But the thing is, you have to realize when someone is criticizing, there might be some truth in it. There might be a vulnerability, for sure. If I'm doing something and I'm being vulnerable like this, I mean, I'll get some feedback because I know that I'm being raw and intentional. And not that I'm inviting that, but it might trigger other people. Well, how come her video isn't perfect? Let's see how this is falling down. I know I'm upgrading what I have, but I'm not spending more money than what I have in order to do that, right? I'm not candy coating something. I have quality and I have integrity and I have intent. But I'm also giving my time to build up those skills. And I'm not offline trying to be perfect. I'm here being imperfect, saying, here we are. And if you're there with me and you're trying to do new things, I see you. And I want you to know you need to give yourself a break. I want you to know that maybe you don't share your seeds, your new plants with people who are going to trample over them. That's not being secret. That's being sensible. That's being who you are and who you are meant to be. And it gives other people permission to do that or not do that. And if they are feeling some kind of way or aggravated or what we would call trigger or being hot-headed, it does help to understand that it's really about other people and not about you. I know that's such a crazy thing growing up, as my parents would say the opposite to me, and I would catch them in a lie and it'd be like, oh, well, the reason why I lied to you is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, well, none of that holds water. I'm 3 years old and you're sitting here lying to me, and I have, okay, well, doesn't change anything. What you just said doesn't change anything. So it's those parts of us, those innocent parts of us. And I wanted to say the creative genius in us lies at the core of innocence. Okay. So somebody says, oh, I'm going to buy land and we're going to live in the desert. And people start to say, oh, what about snakes? What about scorpions? Water, that area has horrible problems with water and water rights and all of that. It's like, well, I'm not asking you to move with me. This is my vision. I didn't ask you to come in and take from it. Why don't you have your own vision? So oftentimes it's people, instead of creating their own vision, here's human nature. Human nature is it's easier to stay in a rut. Once you make one decision, it's easier to make the decision over and over and over again, even if it's not productive. It's like a rut in a street. And if you're riding your bike down the street, you're going to fall into those ruts. But it takes courage and dedication, and it takes fortitude and resilience to find your own path and not get stuck in that rut and not blame other people because the rut is there, because you have the ability to make a different choice, to be in a nicely smooth paved or up and down kind of road, right? You have other choices. And so if somebody is criticizing and you say, well, what is it that you are not doing? Is there anything you're not doing? They're not blaming them, but it might even be an opportunity. Have you considered what you want to do? Like, oh no, I would never do that because I know it wouldn't work out or whatever. Like, okay, well, that's great. So I'm like walking away because that I don't want to participate in that. And I don't need to criticize you because I know that whatever it is you're trying to work through, that you have the ability to get where you're going. But I'm going to walk away because I'm not needing that criticism. I don't need to change through force anymore. I don't need to change through criticism. And I know who I am. And that again may not feel comfortable to people. I have come from an abusive survivor of SA. Um, I have been the black sheep in my family, the scapegoat. I have had people no, I didn't even know why, but I had people who didn't want me to speak up because somehow they felt it dimmed their light, which was never my intention. And so I learned how to continue to move and what I needed to do. And I would come back and revisit and understand that that was that person's something. Okay, well, I don't know if you're seeing a lot of green today. Like I'm seeing a lot of emerald green. I just want to say that. And so I was just going to say there is one particular mentor of mine, and this was when I realized I really needed to walk out the door. My mentor, who taught me many wonderful things, had said to me, um, I have an intuition, and they said, you're going to be involved in my life, and I want you not to interfere. I have no idea what this person is saying. I'm like, this is somebody I respect. This is somebody who talk about spiritual things. This is not somebody that we hang out and smoke cigarettes and drink booze at the bar. Like, that's fine if you do, but that's not the relationship that we have. And I pay them. There's a hierarchical thing. And so one day when I'm in a paid class, they pull me aside and say, hey, I see you and you're going to interfere in my life and you're not invited. And I don't want you to do it. You should just mind your own business. I am like, what is this person doing? Like I was very surprised. And it was a situation in which I could not tell that to other people because they'd be like, you're crazy. That person would never do that. And like, then the other thing they'd say is, well, you must have brought it on yourself because that's karma. If someone is saying that to you, I trust this mentor, and then I would be a black sheep. And so I had nowhere to go other than to like hold that within myself and say, is this true? What could this mean? And it wasn't until years later that I realized that, yes, from my vantage point, even from the vantage point then, if I had an insight or a feeling that somebody that I knew was going to interfere with my life, I realized that the future holds many possibilities. And while that was her future and what she was doing, and I just said her, okay, fine, needs to be there, then I would look at that situation and I would say, what contribution am I making to make this different? Like, this is what the beauty of having our own vision about our future and not the future of other people. This is something that teacher taught me, was that I hope that you can see how this relates. And if not, again, I can come back with this. But basically, what this teacher taught us was visualization and manifestation, and said the first thing you want to do is focus on your own manifestation. You want to focus on the dreams, desires, the goals, your bank account, where you want to live, how much vacation time you want, what's your ideal job, climate, relationship, pet, you name it. Yourself. Focus on yourself. Focus on yourself. Don't put other people in your details, because you don't have the power in their lives that you do in your own. This is something they taught me over and over and over again. And when they came to me and said, I have a vision and it's your problem, you're the culprit, you did this. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Because I am not like that. And I did not get involved in things. And I am not, I was never involved in gossip. I always always have that awareness that somewhere in the world, everything is being recorded. And so I would not say something to someone unless I would say it to their face, or I have said it to their face. You know what I mean? Never talking behind people's back. Oh, my video is starting to go, but I have to go in a minute. Anyway, so what I would have done is look to see how I can change my future outcome. I would not go to another person in my life and say, hey, you need to change yourself and don't criticize me and stay away from me. It was something that I really didn't fully understand all of that. And I think that she felt because I didn't have the spiritual attunement or alignment or clarity that she did, that she could control me. And so that didn't happen. And I can tell you what happened is that vision manifest for them, but it manifests with other people, not with me. I had nothing to do with it in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. But in that particular instance, I did. So I want to end it by saying, if you have something to say it one-on-one with that person, because the biggest impact you can have is when you're transparent and you're there, not leaving a comment on someone's social media, not putting a comment on your social media about them, not doing a video about them, okay? Not telling everyone else your business instead of addressing it directly with that person. I know I have a lot of things that come up recently in my mind that could fit with that. And in this particular situation, I would have welcomed the situation, and it would have been appropriate for that person to come to me to say to me what it is that they saw. Now, whether or not that would have changed, like, it didn't change because I'm in alignment with my own spiritual evolution. I hold myself accountable. I do the things that I need to do. I ask and I look, and that person doesn't know me. That person doesn't know what I do, nor is it their job. And it's not my job to defend my good reputation when someone is saying something else. And so I gently removed the comments. I took the stand. I said a prayer to them, and I said, maybe they just need to understand that not everybody is going to attack them when they attack them, because that basically is what it comes down to. And it is a different point of view. And my mentor would say, if that person and I were in a room and we were having a discussion or we were putting a project together, it would be important for us to then say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Well, I see it differently. Well, I see it differently, right? So in that moment of creation, you get to get everything out. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid. It's not personal. It's about creating something together. But even in that, you are holding your own space, your own accountability. They can hold their own space and their own accountability. And so what happened in this note was not any kind of accountability. What happened was hierarchy. Someone else outside of themselves had authority, and they were trying to take that measuring rod and put it on me when I'm already very clear with that authority. I'm all very understanding and loving and kind, and I'm not going to be someone's punching bag. I'm not going to let somebody continue to put things in my social media that would have other people question, because there isn't anything to question. So that's what I want to say. If there is something that comes up, then you should say to that person, you should first turn that around and say, maybe this is just for me. Maybe this is my mirror. That's the most powerful thing in the world, for us to recognize our mirrors and turn them around and say, what can I learn about this? But do it in a place of self-sovereignty and security and honesty. I call it leaving it at my front door. If there's a message of concern that someone has given me, I have it outside my house. I read it, decide what I want to do, or leave it at my front door. I don't incorporate into my mind, my body, my energy. But that is not naturally how I work. I actually, for years and years, all that stuff comes directly to me. I take things, not personal, I would say, but I think they all relate to me, and I think that they're all valid. And so having a boundary means I can decide whether it's valid or not. Being an adult means maybe it is valid, but I get to choose. And I get to understand other people need to do the things they need to do. They need to rant. They need to yell. And if they needed to send that to me, that's great. But I also know that I'm not going to be there to participate it, much like gossip. That's what I think a lot of. Like, this was criticism, but it was gossip in a sense. And I'm not there for the gossip. I'm there for creating things. I'm there for exploring. I want to see what you created. I want to see what you do. I want to celebrate our own uniqueness and diversity all here together. So thank you for being here.